saying, "Oh, you mess with the bike too much," but I was learning, you know. I was doing a lot of things, and it made me much better, you know.
אני בדרך כלל הייתי מתעסק עם האופנועים הרבה יותר מדי, וכשאנשים היו רואים את זה מהצד, הם אומרים, נשמע, אתה סתם נוגע באופנוע, לא מבינים שאני לומד את האופנוע ככה הרבה יותר טוב. ההתעסקות באופנוע זה דבר טוב, אז כל אחד שיתעסק קצת.
When I started enduro from trials, I used to have stupid handlebars like this, tall handlebars. Yeah, really strange setup. And then the more I raced enduro, I understand, I tried different things, really. I tried lower handlebars, I tried, you know, and now you notice I have really low handlebar. And that's really because for like special test, motocross track, whatever, when you have the handlebar here, when it's high, you can't put any weight on the front. Your hands is here. Yeah. When the handlebar's there, and because I'm tall, another concept like mistake is tall people, oh, we need tall handlebars. But the problem is when you're tall, you have long arms. So if your handlebars are there, your arms are like this. So I have them quite low, so then when I'm stood up, the arms is more straight. So that's one thing, because everyone always asks me, oh, you need high handlebars? No, I use low. Handlebar position, like
דפק לו בקיד עם הרגל.
הוא יוחץ על הקדמי.
איך אתה עושה את מה שהוא עשה? לך. לך.
בירידה אתה יכול לעשות את זה. טוב, קודם כל תראה איזה רול הוא. מה לעשות?
לא ראית מה הוא עושה עם הרגל? עשה לו קרה פנה, ראית?
it's technique. I'm not strong.
מה
but it's-
הטכניק?
Honestly, it's technique. Yeah.
תלחץ חזק, תישען קדימה.
Push your fork. Yeah. Put your leg against it. Yeah, I don't know how to do right now.
שלי האופנוע.
Push.
טוב,
זז.
קטנה.
זז.
וואו!
עלו.
Two strokes.
You see?
More strokes too heavy.
וייקינג שוק.
So, like the handlebar and levers, everything is personal preference.
זה כיוונים אישיים כל אחד מבחינת כידון וידיות.
But you see the handlebar should be somewhere near the line of the fork. See, a little bit forward, a little bit back, which should be somewhere near, you know, that,
באותו קו עם הכידון.
not like forward like a trials bike.
לפי הטעם.
You know, some people have the handlebar like this. Some people have like Ricky Carmichael there. Work for him, you know. It's all personal. Levers, you know, again, it depends on size. You know, if I ride a KTM, I have them quite there. When I was on Yamaha or Honda, I have them more up. Just the style of the bike. So that's one thing. Suspension. I always try to run the suspension as soft as possible. You know, when you have it really stiff, yeah, it's good in motocross, good on jumps, but
most of the
everything
time.
we've done today, yeah,
In the sand.
yeah. But even in the sand, I have it quite soft.
יחסית רך, הוא אומר.
I try and have the same setup for everything. You know, if you can ride the bike everywhere with one setup, then it's an advantage because you know, yeah, maybe you hit a bump and it's gonna kick, but at least you know in the head.
That
Okay,
you're
I have
going
to be
and had a
careful here.
bump.
Yeah, like motocross, you're going around a 2-minute track, so you can make the suspension. You know, oh, there's a big bump over there, and it's too soft, so you make it hard, so you can hit the bump as hard as you can. Where maybe on this you would have to just close a little bit. So that's one thing. The sag, I always like. This bike is way too soft for me, but the sag is somewhere like the static, 30 mil, 35 mil. So from completely up to there,
How much?
that should be like 30, 35 on most bikes. And then if it feels a little bit high, take off some more to 40 mil. If it feels too low, like this for me, then take it up 5 mil. So it's 25, 30, you know. Obviously the sag should be around 100, 110, you know, when you sit on the bike to the stand. But to be honest, I never measure, I just do it on field. I know, like, around this track, with the right
כולם
spring,
מבינים מה שהוא אומר? לא כל כך, אני לא כל כך.
I can land off a jump and turn the bike, and the
זה
bike
אומר
is
שהוא מקבל
turning.
את הסאג לפי תחושה בעיקרון ולא לפי הנוסחאות הידועות. הוא אומר שבעיקרון צריך להיות איפשהו בין 3.5 סנטימטר, ילד אני לא טועה, נכון?
לא זוכר את המידות.
אוקיי.
מה, 3, 5, 4.
בין 4 ל-3.5 סנטימטר משק סטטי לשק פתוח.
Like with the Yamahas, the two Yamahas I said earlier that I showed in the shop with them. So on them you might run 45 mil, 50.
בימה זה יכול להיות פתוח בין 45 ל-50.
Because the rear is quite high, so maybe with the Yamaha you could
זה הגובה של האופנוע, המצב
you could
הקבוע
run
שלו.
less, you know. Gas, gas.
But it's
is-
better to
I
be in
know.
your side. In your side. Maybe.
It's an
advantage.
It's an advantage sometimes. Tracks like this, disadvantage. Because your weight is so important. You know, you have to be really smooth. When you transition the weight from back to forward, the bike is changing a lot. It's good in extreme condition because you can push easy, you can, you know, taller. But yeah, it's like people say to me, oh, it must be good being tall. I said, well, I can't be any smaller unless I put my legs off. So, and the same for small guys, you just have to adapt. You have to make the bike suit. You know, if you're small and you find it tough to touch the ground, then you can lower the suspension, lower seat. You know, all these things help. So it just depends what you're wanting to ride and what you feel on the bike is the most important. You know?
I think when you're not a professional rider, so you're looking for all-arounder.
Yeah.
To be all-arounder. Sometimes you can ride the dunes, sometimes you can
Yeah, I
ride
think
hard
that's what
enduro.
you guys are mainly.
That's, yeah.
You know, you go ride everywhere, so you want a bike that you can take out of the workshop or out of the house, and you can go riding, and it's comfortable everywhere. And I know in England there's so many con artists around. Oh, we can do a suspension. They never watch the guy ride. They never, you know, they don't even ask how he rides. They just set the suspension. They fuck around with it a bit, different springs. Well, 500, 600 pounds.
Yeah, I know
You
it's
know?
bullshit.
Yeah, when, to be honest, the standard bikes now is that good? You know, the companies spend so many hundreds of thousands to make the suspension. You know, this bike, yeah, I could go to World Championship and have a good result, but I couldn't win with this suspension because it's, you know, soft and a bit nervous. But that's where you go and buy the, you know, the better stuff.
זה מגביל אותי.
But, you know, my brother could go and ride this bike and go and win like a British championship race, you know. The suspension is good. The only thing you need to do normally is for the weight is the spring. And then the setting is never so bad. You know?
הוא אומר, הקפיץ זה הדבר הכי טוב שאפשר לעשות מבחינת משקלים. כי
Yeah, so
הכיוונים,
adjust
הוא
the
אומר,
sag, or if you're like you or me, more heavy, then maybe you need a harder spring when you get faster. But
כשאתה מתחזק ונהיה מהיר יותר, אתה צריך להחליף קפיצים.
for your level now, a standard bike is perfect.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, not to be sort of talk down to people, but the standard bike is more than enough for most people.
הוא אומר, אני לא רוצה להעליב אף אחד, אבל
Like a friend of
בגלל
mine.
שזה רכיבה חובבנית, זה לא משהו עבודה ומקצועי, אז הוא אומר, אופנוע סטנדרטי זה מעולה לאנשים כאלה. לא צריך כאילו, אתה יודע.
A friend of mine just bought a new KTM motocross bike. He got the bike, put it in the workshop, took out the suspension, sent it away. I said, what the fuck are you doing? Oh, you have to change the valving, change the spring. I said, have you rode the bike? No. I said, have you ever rode a 2017 450 KTM? No. What the fuck are you doing? You know? And also you need to ride a new bike to make the suspension, to bed it in. Yeah,
צריך להכיר אופנוע לפני שמשפרים חבר.
but it's a lot of it's a list. A lot of it's in the mind. Social media, you know, people go on that. Oh,
Take years to understand your bike.
yeah,
Years.
he's had this suspension done. Oh, maybe you'll beat me now. I have to get mine done, and that's what it is. I have so many people come to me and you do basic things. You say, can you make the suspension? I know what race he does. Sometimes you change the valving, but normally just oil height, spring, few clicks. Try that. Whoa, it's much better. Incredible. Okay. It's in here. they just have to have the.
They have
If,
to do
if they
this
see
push.
their friend or competitor have got an advantage, or they think they have to do the same.
Yeah.
And this is, I don't know in Israel how it is, but in England,
Yeah, it's
the
almost the
same.
same, believe me.
yeah, I
The
think
same,
the whole
no.
world is the same.
Same, אנחנו שקשוקה.
The same.
And then you go to America and it's 10 steps more. They have, whoa man, we have to have a factory engine, we have to send the engine to pro circuit, the suspension. And you know, them guys spend absolute fortune. And yeah, for nothing. When I raced in, when I was racing in the US,
כל עדר.
they had race
עדר
fuel,
כבשים.
they had, everything was faster. This guy said to me, man, you have to have a hot rod motor. I was like, what? You need the engine tuned. He says, you can't compete over here with a stock engine. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And I went and bought a bike straight from the shop. Like, when I raced for KTM there in 07, the bike was pretty much standard bike with good suspension. And even the KTM team, oh no, you need a motocross bike. I said, I want the enduro bike because it's GNCC, it's
Yeah.
3-hour race in the
Cross
forest.
country, yeah.
And I said, yeah, but it's tighter than Europe. And I said, well, why? If it's tighter, why do I need a motocross bike?
RFS?
Yeah, first year was RFS engine. So I rode that bike once. Then 2008 came the new bike. So they got an XC for me, which was a motocross, a new twin cam engine. I
Yeah.
said, oh no, I said I want the enduro bike like they're going to use in Europe. No, that bike's no good, it's like a trail bike. And I said, that's what I want that bike. So I tested the motocross bike and I said, no way can I ride this in the woods. So then we got the other model, the enduro model. Awesome, perfect, Yeah, but it's not so much power in this bike. And I was like, yeah, but it's easy. For 3 hours I can, ride it hard. So you know how it is out there. And then I went with standard Kawasaki, 9 and 1 with a complete standard bike.